The Vision Pro is Apple's most technologically advanced consumer gadget to date. Nonetheless, it may portend a nightmare future in which people are forced to live alone. Before we dive into its details, make sure to click that subscribe button for latest videos. As Apple's first official spatial computer, the Vision Pro was initially shown off during the WWDC 23 Developer Conference. Concerns have been raised regarding Apple's planned implementation of this mixed reality headgear, despite the fact that its cutting-edge nature cannot be denied in any manner. In spite of the fact that it won't be available for another 6 months or more, just thinking about it gives me a little unpleasant feeling. My anxiety about the Vision Pro and how it will further separate individuals from one another grew with each new social function that the firm emphasized during the keynote presentation for its newest piece of technology. So, what exactly is a Vision Pro? To begin, let's dissect the Vision Pro and determine exactly what it is. If you've watched the demos or the film that Apple released to introduce Visionos, then you probably have some concept of what it looks like. Your canvas is the whole wide globe by default. The things that would typically be in your line of sight are reflected in the headset, giving the impression that you are not even wearing it at all. There is a layer of user interface components on top of the real world. These elements include buttons, app icons, open windows, and a variety of other things. Therefore, your workflow appears to float in front of you while you continue to observe the real-world people and things that are all around you. However, in contrast to Google Glass, you are not truly superimposing an augmented reality layer on top of the real environment. The entirety of the user experience is reproduced using data from various cameras and sensors. Because the device supplies a real-time live video feed while it is powered on, if the vision is turned off, you will not be able to see what is in front of you. Apple has incorporated a digital crown, which can be rotated in order to convert between the AR mode and the more traditional VR mode. This was done so that users could control the level of immersion they experienced. This latter feature, when used, removes any real-world items that may be visible in the video feed in order to immerse the user entirely in the content that they are viewing. Therefore, rather than seeing the people, light, and items in front of you, you got the option of sitting in an environment that is completely dark and lighting a virtual candle instead. You can manipulate reality in any way that you see fit. As someone who places a high importance on face-to-face interactions and personal relationships, I find some of the ideas presented in Vision Pro to be quite unsettling. To begin, the availability of an AR mode makes it simpler to keep the headset on for longer stretches of time than might otherwise be the case. If only the VR mode had been available, customers would have been forced to remove it so they could see what was in front of them. The augmented reality mode creates a more relaxed environment, which makes it simpler to keep the headset on at all times. Despite the fact this may not have an effect on you as a user, I wouldn't feel very comfortable living with or spending time with someone who always leaves it on. EyeSight is Apple's so-called answer to the problem of how to interact with people face-to-face while using the device. When you first set up the Vision Pro, this function will perform a scan of your eyes and other facial features. It will then utilize the resulting 3D map of your face to construct an artificial model of your face, which will be presented on the external screen. Those who look at you will see a portrayal of your eyes that is reasonably accurate, with the exception that it is completely fictitious. The eyes are the windows to the soul, and regardless of how advanced the artificial model is, it will never be able to replace looking into the eyes of a real person. Although I have not yet used the device, even if I did, I do not believe that I would be able to hold a conversation that was completely natural with someone who is wearing a Vision Pro. Even while EyeSight is capable of tracking the wearer's eye movement and recreating it on the outer display, I have no doubt that it will not be able to recreate the human spark and emotions that can be seen in a person's eyes. XDA editor Ben Sim gave a demonstration of the headset at WWDC. He mentioned that the footage of the real world wasn't 100% natural, therefore I expect that the experience will be the same with the eyes. In a future where constantly having a Vision Pro on would be the norm, striking a healthy balance between nature and technology would become an increasingly difficult task. Already, we are completely encircled by machines that continuously ping us. When an app deems that it needs my attention, it gives me a vibration on my wrist. Even while we can rely on focus modes to block out some distractions, it is difficult to entirely turn off notifications and alerts in this day and age when more and more of our day-to-day activities are moving into the digital realm. You are not looking at the real world when you're using Visionos. You are merely gazing at a high-resolution representation of what is right in front of you, which is accompanied by a layer of software that allows for interactivity. Imagine that you are talking to someone while staring at them and suddenly a notice pops up on your screen. You can get away with ignoring your brand new Apple Watch or turning your iPhone 14 Pro upside down for the time being. When the real world is reflected in a virtual environment with persistent notifications, things become more complicated. Even though I'm sure you can mute them, having to toggle the Do Not Disturb setting every time you want to talk to someone's inconvenient. The relationship between nature and technology is already fraught with difficulties. In addition to its immersion, the normalization and adoption of the Vision Pro as a personal device further tips the scale and makes it more difficult to disengage. To our great fortune, the Vision Pro will initially only be sold in the United States in very small quantities and at a price that is out of reach for most people who may be interested in using it. Although Apple has plans to roll out the service in additional nations shortly thereafter, it is expected that it will take some time for the product to develop widespread popularity and be utilized by the general public. Before acquiring a unit, an employee is required to conduct a fit test on themselves. This is in addition to the previous requirement, so placing an order for one won't be an easy task. In addition to this, we should also bring to your attention the rumor that Apple is working on augmented reality glasses that are somewhat comparable to Google Glass. These glasses would allow users to see the real world through clear lenses that could optionally superimpose a layer of software on top of the image. Therefore, in contrast to the Vision Pro, you will not be confined to a dark room with only 2 stamp-sized screens as your only access to the outside world. When and if the AR glasses become a reality, they will provide a more subtle separation between people who are engaging with one another than is currently the case. It is my hope that by then we will have figured out how these devices fit into our lives alongside the currently available iPad models and superb Macs, and to what degree it will take over. In the end, we are unable to render a conclusive verdict on a product that has not yet been made public until we have had the chance to put it through its paces and evaluate the results. On the other hand, after experiencing the demos centered on being alone, complete with FaceTime video chats that replicated my facial characteristics and motions, I can safely say that I do not feel particularly comfortable in this blind spot of loneliness. Share your opinions with us in the comments below and subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos. Thanks for watching.